Collins, I have something to actually support your theory.
Wait, which theory? I have a lot of theories.
No, the one that we were just talking about. I have something to support that.
Oh, about him getting sacked tomorrow?
No.
Oh. No. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
What we were just talking about. Oh, what do you got there? What's that?
Why not? Woodford Reserve?
Double oaked?
No. Oh, straight.
Double oaked?
Oh yeah.
No.
Also known
I have
as,
off tomorrow.
Also known as the Joao Felix. Hit the woodwork, double oaked.
The
His
Cody
goals will come.
Parkey double doink.
Samina mina, Edward Mende, Samina mina, Sam Sedate. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast, a Chelsea podcast by a bunch of guys who just watch a lot of Chelsea games. Tonight you have me, a one-time man of the Get the Fuck Out of Here nominee, Andy at Comiskey North. Next, you've got a man who's got more title aspirations than this current squad, and that's Parker at DJ Parkour. And finally, someone who's a better secret agent than Jorginho, Matt at Matus Lee. Matt, how you doing?
Doing well. Can't complain. Had a very sad week as a Chelsea fan. But overall good week. Did some shopping for the nursery and stuff like that. Got to go out to dinner with some friends, so it was a good time. But overall can't complain. Parks, how are you?
You know, I got to spend a lot of my weekend in Oklahoma City, which I feel like is starting to become my second home. But it was mildly better weather than we have in Minnesota, but I still got up at 7 a.m. and went for a run, and it was like 34 degrees, which really just still feels like a kick in the nuts, man. It just doesn't feel fun. But aside from that was my personal win. Yeah, I got up in Oklahoma City, went for a run, and training for a half marathon. So it's good to get out there and put the miles in. So that was my own win. And I got to watch the Chelsea lose against 20th Southampton. But my friends, the eternal optimist in me says that this is all part of the process, whatever process we might be on. And it is our journey to keep trudging forward in supporting our team. And so I still try to find those positives, man. I still try to find those little nuggets, still try to find the things I can hang my head on. There was a lot of bad, but there's still some good. And, whether the manager changes or the personnel changes or the back office changes, front office changes, we're still Chelsea. We're still Chelsea fans. We still rep the club, and we push forward. And so we, as we continue to talk about, we'll talk about the things we see and the things we like and the things we don't like, but we'll keep supporting our club because that's what we do as sports fans, man. That's what we do. And we try to have as much fun as we can while doing so. That was my weekend. Collins, how about you, man? How was yours?
Man, you're on an inspirational kick today. I love it. Mine was kind of similar, minus the Oklahoma City part. Watching the Chelsea games this week, we get to like the 70th minute of the match and we'd be losing in a match that we should be winning. And I just think to myself, how am I going to recover from all this pain? Like, how is my day going to turn around after this? And I realized that Chelsea's getting to me a lot this year, a lot more than usual. So I take it out on the weights. So Parker, cheers to fitness, right? So yeah, I mean, that I guess that's the only positive is Chelsea's leading me to be more of an active person.
I'm going to take just a very, very quick moment to say that, Collins, your fitness journey is inspiring, man. The fact that you're down 20 pounds in the start of 2023, fucking awesome. I salute that. I cheers that, man. It's awesome. Love to hear it. Love to see it. And for anyone else that's on some sort of fitness kick or any sort of journey for that, we support it. We love it. We love to see personal growth in anything that you want to do. So cheers to that, my friend. That's awesome.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right.
I
boys,
fully support that as well. Although we know out of the three of us, I am probably the least active person. I don't look like it, but I am. But yeah, that's really great. Great news to hear, and definitely keep up with what you're doing. So cheers to you, brother.
Appreciate you guys. Well, boys, we're on episode number 28, and with the end of that Southampton match, I feel like 28 can only be for one number, and really it can only be for one number. There's no one else who's worn the number better than that, and that's Cesar Azpilicueta. We call him Dave. So we're not even going to talk about anybody else who wore that number. Cheers to Dave. Cheers to his good health. He's supposed to be released from the hospital tomorrow, Monday, which will be the day this releases. So cheers to a speedy recovery to the captain.
Cheers.
Dude, that was one of the most scary incidents I've seen. It was just when you see both your teammates and the other calling for staff right away, it was pretty scary, and he was down for a good 10 minutes. So shout out to the staff that took care of him, but scary, and wish him the best.
Yeah, very, very scary. And those of us in the US that watch, football as we know at the NFL, after seeing what has transpired after like Damar Hamlin and all that stuff, like you have to think of almost like worst case scenario, right? But the fact that everybody was aware of the situation, everybody knew what was going on, they knew immediate medical attention was needed, everything like that. Players on both sides, medical staffs on both sides. It's great to see that attention was there and it was handled so quickly. So very happy to see that.
All right, boys. Well, on tonight's pod, cover a couple losses, couple 1-0 losses for Chelsea. But we do have a very special guest, good friend of the pod, Ty Frings, the Badger Hopper, big Dortmund fan, coming on to discuss their 1-0 victory over us, and then a return leg in a couple weeks here. And then we'll also talk about the 1-0 loss to soon to be relegated Southampton. All right, boys, we are joined now by great friend of the pod, great Borussia Dortmund fan, Ty Frings. Ty, how you doing tonight?
Awesome. I really appreciate all three of you guys having me on, just because having known you guys, prior living back in Wisconsin and stuff like that, played volleyball individually with all three of you, never at the same time, ironically, too much. But no, it's really cool to kind of see you guys carrying on a passion that I also have still. Maybe it's not volleyball, but now it's following international football and soccer. So I love grassroots and like friends doing things that are independent of like massive media. So what you guys have here is really cool. And I will say you guys are like my way to get Premier League information. So like I consistently come back to you guys and definitely listen to you guys, and there's tons of players you've educated me on. So I appreciate you guys having me on, seriously.
Well, I hope you can educate us a little bit tonight on some of these players. I know Matt watches the most non-English soccer out of the three of us. So I think Parker and I might need a refresher on some of these players. But we do start out all of these, all these talks with guests here, just because it is weird in America how everybody gravitates towards a European team, and not, necessarily like, oh, we're from Wisconsin, so we must be Packer fans kind of thing. How did you get drawn to Dortmund?
Yeah. I believe the World Cup that because for a lot of us, speaking for myself, I mean, a lot of us, get PlayStation or Xbox, we get the FIFA video game, and it's like, okay, England, we know the guys with the accents are really good at football, or like Spain or something. And we start to play. And ironically, it was like the 2006 World Cup, Germany had hosted, and this central defensive midfielder hits a screamer for them against Costa Rica from 45-55 yards out. And right away, the announcers just springs. And our whole family by happenstance was having a reunion that summer in the Dells. Wisconsin guys know this spot. And right away, everyone's snapping their necks. And we had an uncle that was really good on the whole ancestry before it was ancestry.com and the DNA and all the other shit. And he checks, and sure enough, our family originally comes from Cologne, Germany. So anyone who follows Bundesliga or knows from outside, there is FC Cologne, who is already kind of a bona fide team there. But at the time, Torsten had just gotten done with a small stint for 1.5 years, 2 years with Borussia Dortmund. And when we had our little FIFA video game, my sister and I, we're playing with Dortmund because this guy has this last name Frings. Well, come to find out, we're not a very popular last name in Germany. And through probably a good 2 or 3 channels or avenues, there's a better than not chance that he is a distant relative of ours. I do have a great grandfather whose brother is entombed and buried in the Kölner Dom, the cathedral that is right outside the train station, if anyone ever visits Cologne. And so our entire roots are kind of in that Ruhrpott, Nordrhein, Westphalia region. And because of Dortmund's rabid fan base, unreal ultras. I mean, you guys saw the tifo on Wednesday night. I mean, it's just even the visiting fans, and as long as you're not Rangers or HSV from Hamburg, we will welcome you with open arms. So that's kind of how I just started following Dortmund. Is it happened to have a player that may or may not be a distant relative of ours. We're fairly confident he is. And from then on, I mean, even when he left and went to play for Werder Bremen and eventually retired and became an SV Meppen trainer, we still, my roots, heart was always telling me Dortmund it is. The passion, the fans just caught me. The day before I got engaged to my now wife, I took her on a stadium tour. I had to make sure okay, if she's really about this and we're going to get engaged in Germany and take her back to the homeland, she better like Dortmund. And sure enough, she got good and drunk on the stadium tour, and the rest is history. So I apologize for the roundabout way, but that's kind of how I've become this latched on Dortmund supporter from afar.
No, that's awesome. I love hearing everybody's stories about how they became fans, but yours is a special one. So I appreciate you sharing that with us here. And then just one more question before we get into the match here. I know for those of you who follow you on Twitter at the Badger Hopper, you will know you played professional volleyball overseas, coached over there. And so I would imagine that you got a little bit of a taste of the difference in club culture compared to what it is over here with, and I know volleyball and soccer are completely different sports, but can you speak a little bit to how it's treated a little different over there?
Yeah, man. I mean, I got really lucky that my wife was 10 times the athlete I ever was. And she played professionally in Denmark for a season for Brøndby, the Copenhagen derby that they share with FC Copenhagen. So Brøndby has a massive soccer and volleyball culture already in Denmark. And when Sarah came home from Denmark, I started the Marion men's volleyball program in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, small Division III. And eventually through a few other channels and stuff, the same people that got her hooked up with playing in Denmark asked, hey, do you guys want to go play? And potentially even, Tyler, you head coach your wife on the women's side of the club in the Faroe Islands. And most people are like, oh, they're heading to the Caribbean, like they're heading down to South America. And we're like, no, the Faroe Islands are between Iceland and Norway in the middle of the North Atlantic. Like, we had 11 hurricanes of ice in 1 year. So with that little tidbit, I mean, I had always, through her, followed kind of Brøndby and even Danish soccer for a little bit, because I thank God ESPN Plus would carry it. And it was neat, man. I mean, we would support in the Faroe Islands. There weren't a lot of dual clubs where they have that, but there was a lot of us that would follow one another. So we had like B36 the B36. That was like our club in the Faroe Islands, excuse me. And then they would come and pack the hall for us when we would play a match on the midweek. So on the weekends, it was about the football. And then midweek, it was like handball and volleyball were prime. And it was just one really cool little country, but it was neat because they have probably the highest FIFA involvement of any coaching collective in the world. So like the most per capita coaches of this 55,000 person nation hold FIFA coaching licenses in that country.
Dang. That's amazing.
Also the friendliest derby in the world, though, because you will not see a single fist thrown, and there'll probably be more beers bought for each other than anything.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Sounds like my kind of place.
Yeah, right.
Great people.
All right. Well, turning to the footy here. Chelsea Dortmund this week in Germany. Chelsea dropped the match 1-0. Goal courtesy of Karim Adeyemi. Though from a Chelsea perspective, from our perspective, it was more positive than what we had seen previously. I know, Ty, you guys are on like a 10-game unbeaten streak or something like that. We have won 2 out of our last 15. So it was the first half looked really positive, especially João Felix hitting the crossbar in what I believe the 38th minute, something like that. So we'll just kind of go around the horn here with how the match kind of felt in our own individual perspectives. So Parker, I know you're Mr. Positive on this pod. We'll start with you. What did you make of the match, or with that first half?
Yeah, man, I had my blockers on. I've got the Potter out blockers on. I just try to focus on what I'm watching, right? Trying not to blame anyone too much. Just trying to focus on the positives. I said previous episode that this is it's kind of house money. We've got we're just kind of playing for the future, and I'm just trying to take little nuggets into my pocket for the next match and the next match and the next match, and trying to gain some momentum wherever I can. Otherwise I get too depressed, and then this becomes not fun for me. That's really like the only reason I do it. It's to make sure that I have fun when I tune in. A lot of times I have to like pseudo work and watch matches, or like watch a match and then work until 7 p.m. because I watched a match, things like that. So if I'm going to do that, man, damn it, I'm going to have some fun. We talk a lot about the finishing. Obviously we didn't finish. We didn't score any goals. We had a lot of positives, but I really enjoyed the creation of opportunities. Fairly end-to-end match. And I thought our defense held up relatively well against Dortmund, but I enjoyed the creative juices that were flowing between Felix and Mudryk. I thought we just sort of attacked pretty well and consistently. And I can't remember the last time we created 10 attempts or 10, solid chances, let alone 20, which is what we kind of created in this Dortmund match. It seems like we have a hex against our goal, especially into the Southampton match, which we won't talk about this second, but it seems like there's a hex on our goal right now, and we just can't kind of bury it. We're also learning who we can and can't have back in corner kick situations. Enzo got torched. And Enzo's been highly touted as one of our best signings, and I thought he's played well. He's kind of lived up to the moment so far. I think his finishing can be a little bit better, but Enzo got torched. I think we need to plan better for that. But it's a catch-22, man. We send guys forward on corners to try to score, and then we leave ourselves vulnerable, right? It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And if we don't send people forward, then we can't score. And we're trying to fix that problem while also then exposing ourselves. So to me, more positives than negatives. And I think the recent change in the Champions League rule, which is away goals don't count more towards the aggregate score, the 1-0 result is fine for us now, because now if we go 2-1 against Dortmund at home, we're not losing straight up. We go into extra time and then we go into pens. That's an even draw, whereas it wasn't in the past. So I think that plays well for us. And that obviously, if the away leg is first, getting that away goal is super, super critical. It's not so much anymore. So I think we're in good position. And I have to say that because I'm going to the match against Dortmund at home. So I'm keeping my spirits as high as I can, even though there's a lot of negativity surrounding right now. I'm trying to keep my spirits as high as I can. So Matt, how did you see it through your eyes?
I was excited for this match. I really was. I actually am. I do enjoy watching Borussia Dortmund whenever I get the opportunity to. They're just a fun club. Going back to, when Klopp was there, they made it to the Champions League final with Lewandowski and, that whole crew. Like, it was just so fun to watch, right? You didn't think a team like that would make it that far and stuff like that. Absolutely loved every single second of it. So I was excited for it. But I did kind of know going into it that Dortmund was on a hell of a run. I half expected a Gio Reyna wonder strike for them to win, just to piss me off. But luckily we didn't get that. But Chelsea's not had a great run of form over the last few months, and Dortmund's playing very well right now. So I knew that it would be a little bit end to end. I thought for the most part that Dortmund would kind of play for the counter. I thought that they had a little bit more assertiveness going forward in that regard. And watching Chelsea over the last few months, realistically, if you park the bus from minute one, we're not getting through. That's kind of been the whole thing, right? So I thought they had a good tactic, and everything was set up right. Again, we did have our chances, but the story of the season, we haven't been able to capitalize on it. So you just have to do what you can. And, Dortmund and Adeyemi, they capitalized on a great opportunity, right? It was a bang counter, right? Nobody expected it to break out like that. And, they took advantage of their opportunity. So, again, 1-0, not the worst thing in the world. Parker, as you explained with the new rule change and everything, definitely not as bad as we would have thought in years prior. My only concern is that we still have to score. So we can't just settle for a 0-0 draw or anything like that. But I did see some positives. Obviously wish that it was kind of for the greater collective that we would have been able to capitalize on them. But we're not in the worst position that we could be going forward.
See, and the eternal pessimist, I was most impressed, I would say, by Kalidou Koulibaly. I told you guys in the group chat prior to the match that continental football is his style. That's where he's going to thrive. I don't think he's going to adjust to the Premier League, but I thought he showed out. He did. You guys touched on the defense playing well. I thought he played real well. He had a chance to bury an equalizer late, which, oh man, I was on the treadmill at that point. I probably would have face planted right right onto the conveyor belt there. But I was impressed by him. I'm hoping that's kind of a bounce back spurring moment for him. But yeah, finishing is the issue. Doesn't matter how many shots we take. It's nice to have a lot of shots, nice to have chances. But if we can't finish, we can't finish. And I at this point, I don't even know who to blame for that, because it's everyone. João Felix, João Felix excites me. He had another hell of a match. But he's not an out and out number 9. He's not a guy that you're going to expect to score. Oh, he's only here half a year. So 15 goals in half a season. He's not going to do that. That's just not what he's going to do. but I guess the main thing that gets me, and again, it's not the lack of goals or anything like that. It's the lack of discipline. A lot of fouls by Chelsea, a lot of fouls by Dortmund as well. But a lot of cards all over the pitch and seamlessly needless cards. The brawl at the end was kind of a head scratcher. But yeah, someone's got to tighten up the ship here for Chelsea. But you know, that's all on our side. Ty, what about your perspective?
I think all three of you really kind of put it together, you know, really, really well. I mean, first and foremost, I'd say I was really excited to see João Felix play and fit into your guys' system. I think that he's an exciting player. He's one of those like volatile players where whether you sub him on late or if he's out there from the beginning, the guy could get 2 or 3 goals in 10 minutes. He could get 2 or 3 goals over the course of 90. He's a live player. I think that Chelsea fans and Premier League fans in general got an introduction to Gregor Kobel, our keeper, who played out of his mind. I note that only because he had to make some unreal saves and stand on top of his head, in addition to João Felix putting some balls off posts and around. That's where, as a Dortmund fan, I do have a lot of worry more going into the next leg than I do going into the last game, because seeing those opportunities, it's going to connect. I mean, it's going to click. The game may not reward you that night, that Wednesday night in Dortmund, but when you go home to Stamford Bridge, familiar faces, familiar bed, familiar noises, fans behind you, you know, it's going to be a completely different ball game. And that's really where I thought Havertz would have stepped up more. As someone who doesn't watch Chelsea as much, seeing him in the starting lineup, I think, okay, here's a guy who knows German football. Here's a guy who knows Dortmund football, because he was this close to signing from Leverkusen to Dortmund and said, nope, I want to go bigger, better. I want to go Premier League. I want to go Chelsea. He knows all these guys. He's played with some of them, whether it's in the national ranks or Julian Brandt in the Leverkusen academy. And I felt like I forgot he was out there at the end of the first half. But that just shows you how good João Felix can be, because he was a go-getter. He was a world beater. I thought that Chelsea's wing play was really good. It's something that we're not as good at. Our center backs of Sula, Hummels just now got in today. Today, but during the midweek did not play against Chelsea. We don't have the biggest guys who can win balls, whereas you guys have a lot of athletic guys that'll get into the box and make plays. Now it's just putting that all together, because you see you have a lot of individual talent. It's giving that individual talent time to really form. I'm really worried because I felt like we started, as a Dortmund side, started to really park the bus. We bring on Modeste instead of Marco Reus, the Dortmunder Jung, the boy, the academy kid, to really kind of like polish off that 1-0 and maybe put one more in. And we bring on Modeste, who has been a liability all year since we signed him from Köln. So there's this what we call Terzic ball in Dortmund, where we will have a masterful game plan and we'll put 1 or 2 in, and then we right away park the bus and we start to play conservative and we wait to really get a beautiful goal. And it almost kicks us in the nuts. And the perfect example is if we had not countered on a great Chelsea corner, I don't think we're sitting here with a win going into Stamford Bridge in 2 weeks. I think it's going to be something that we're going to really have to tooth and claw ourselves out of, because of only coming out of that with 1 goal. I think Chelsea can put 2 or 3 goals in at home. We don't play well in London. We don't play well on the road against a lot of international clubs. So I really don't know that our young side, the Adiemis, the Riersons, even Bellingham, who we all know is eventually going to maybe be eyeing a Chelsea contract one day, or a Premier League contract one day, is going to want to play big in the bright lights of London. Who doesn't? But a lot of those guys don't have the experience, yet of playing big European nights outside of Germany. So that's where I'm really interested to see how things can progress, for both sides. But I do think there's a little bit of momentum still in that Chelsea tank that scares me.
I feel like there's a lot of potential, and like that's where like the Chelsea fans have been just waiting and itching, but it never seems to materialize. And I think your comments on Kai Havertz are just spot on, and it's something that's been talked about ad nauseum on this pod. But we all like see this talent, and we see what he can do, and we can see the moments that he steps up in, and he has our most goals for the year. Like, he leads us in goals. He's not like a full flop, but compared to the situations he gets himself in, you kind of look at him and say he's kind of flopped, right? Like, he just doesn't take advantage of those situations that he finds himself in. And it's kind of the Timo Werner effect, where it's like Timo got into space and we all expected him to do more because he found himself in space, but then he didn't have that technical skill to like put a ball on goal or to get the right cross in. Kai, at least I see, or to stay inside. And Kai has that problem too. But like, I see some of that in Kai, where like, Kai crossed a couple of beauties into the box against Southampton this week that didn't get finished. And it's like, those are assists. In my mind, they're assists because those are like balls on a platter that just get saved. There are other times though with Kai where he just makes the wrong choice, and he does it too frequently for us that like, it just starts to really get annoying, and you start to like really wonder. But playing it in front of 86,000 really passionate fans. I mean, Ty, you mentioned, home cooking, home bed, all that stuff. But I feel like the noise at Stamford Bridge is lacking. Just the amount of support, it's very divided right now. We're kind of in shambles. We've got new ownership, new back-end staff, and half of our team is new. And so we're trying to figure out our identity right now, and the fans are very divided. Chelsea Twitter is incredibly toxic right now, and a lot of people don't trust what's going on, and a lot of people aren't there to yell and just kind of support damn the results, right? So that's what's worrying from our point of view, is if we have that like super rabid fan base that Dortmund has been known to have, I would be more comfortable coming home with this 1-0, and having the boys rally behind the fans. I just don't think we have that right now. And I think it comes in pockets. It's just, it's a little bit more selective in when it comes out.
So Ty, I got to ask you about one player here, because he really caught my attention, and I guess I'd only heard of him in passing over the last couple of years, and that's Marius Wolf. To me, it seemed like he had a really good game at that wingback position. Was it kind of a one-off for him, or is he kind of solidifying himself, as a solid option there?
Yes and no. He just came back to us from loan in Cologne. So we sent him kind of, 20, 30 kilometers down the road and said, hey, you're going to get first team action. You're going to play consistently and then come on back. And he did not take that bad. He took that as an opportunity to say, hey, if I do take off, I will be out the door on the bigger and better things. He's never a guy who will go above and beyond the Bundesliga. He will be a bona fide Bundesliga right wing back through and through. He will never, he won't even take the trip that Andre Schürrle did to the Premier League, embarrass himself, and then God knows where he plays now. It might be the J League. I don't know, but hopefully that doesn't get anyone in trouble. But it's funny because Wolf has really stepped into his own. Thomas Meunier, who came over from PSG a couple years back, everyone thought it was going to be a mainstay at that position, but he could never play that offensive right wing back role that we needed, that moves up into the offense and really kind of is a go-between, that intermediary between link up play for the midfield. And Wolf has really stepped into that role. And every now and then, if a ball falls to him, he has no problem go ahead and just having a go at it. But I mean, I really like some of the stuff he did. He'll track back as soon as he needs to, but he's always looking for opportunities to get up there and just feed the ball in. So he's definitely a guy who's a Dortmund mainstay. But I mean, outside of the Bundesliga, I don't know that too many people are going to know about him, but it's not a shame on them. He's just now kind of acclimating himself to the role he has at Dortmund.
And that's good to hear. And the way you just explained that, boys, it reminds me a lot of Victor Moses. come back to Chelsea after, going out on loan for a couple of years and slotting into that right wing back spot because we needed a little offense out of there, and took it in stride. So it's always good to find those connections there. Was there anybody else on the Dortmund side who impressed you outside of Kubel, Wolf, Adeyemi?
One thing that I had noted was back to the Chelsea side of things was Ziyech was a guy who always in our past was kind of a Dortmund killer. When he was at Ajax, he was always kind of the guy on the assist sheet when you look back through the notes that was feeding in Haller and the rest of them, and he could really pick apart Dortmund. And I think you saw some of that with some of his plays. He was really kind of grinding some of the gears of the Dortmund players, while maybe Chilwell was getting more of the attention than others. He was really kind of like the guy, the maestro in the back, kind of pulling things and doing that. And he was a guy who I was expecting to be the killer. Him and Havertz, I was like, these two are going to be the ones who know how to pick Dortmund apart and will absolutely crush us. But that's where I do think a guy like Rierson, when he did sub in, really stepped up and really played well. Now the problem is with that young kind of maverick free spirit rogue that we have going on at Dortmund with the Adeyemis and the Mukokos and stuff like that, he gets himself that card in the 88th minute with the scuffle, trying to be a hero. It's like, you're fresh off the boat from Norway. We don't need you we're not building the statue off you next week, but here we are. So I was really happy with Rierson's play. I think for a guy who, again, he's from Norway. I think he played at Gladbach before he came to us. He's really not even that known about in the Bundesliga. When we signed him at the break, Dortmund supporters were scratching their heads wondering, who the heck is this guy? And now all we can do is learn more about him because he actually stepped up. So that was a guy who I was really impressed with, because I thought even subbing on, he would have been the one to fold and let the equalizer in. So he impressed me.
I would say the one person that I thought had a very kind of sneaky good game was Schlotterbach. I thought that he played really well, and I don't know a ton about him, but I thought that he did a very good job with maintaining the onslaught that we had for a decent chunk of that match. I thought he played really well. He was physical. He made very good decisions. So I would say I was very impressed with him too.
And on top of that, I would say another guy who impressed me was Emre Can. I can't stand him. I've never been a fan of his.
Me too. Even as as well. That's totally fair.
Yep, same.
He was all over the pitch though, which was nice. You look at the Chelsea side of the ball, and I think Can did what Ruben Loftus-Cheek was supposed to be doing on the Chelsea side, and RLC just got lost on the pitch. There were times where I didn't even know that he was even out there. But then you'd see, Can pop up and intercept a ball, or make a tackle to prevent a break or something, and it just makes me hate him even more.
we don't like Arsenal a lot here.
No, he was Liverpool.
Yep.
That's why we didn't like him, or at least that's why I don't like him, because he was with Liverpool and he was.
That's right.
So.
All right. Well, turning to the return leg, coming back to Stamford Bridge here. Rierson's out with suspension. Mason Mount will be out on suspension. Ty, you broke the news to us that Adeyemi might be out with leg injury. What are our predictions for this one? Because I think it's a crapshoot. I think it could go either way.
I'm just going to start. I'm not going to predict score. I'm just going to predict that we change up our tactics a bit, and we go 3 at the back and run a wing back system with 3 at the back. I think with West Fofana coming back, it really improves our ability to do that. Benoit Badiashile can't play because he wasn't registered for the Champions League. Ty, I'm not sure if you knew that or not, but he's been a January signing that's really stepped in and filled big shoes. And he's not able to play because we didn't have enough roster spots for it. So with West Fofana coming back, I think we run 3 at the back, and then I think we push like hell forward. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope to see that. That would obviously be the preferred way, especially when you know that you need goals and you have to attack. Obviously with you run a back 3 of probably Koulibaly, Silva, and West Fofana, Reese and Chills. Take those wing backs, and then luckily you don't have to worry about the Mount dilemma because he's not playing, so you can throw literally anybody else from the stands out there and probably be more productive. So I think we really get after it. I could see it being 1-1. I could see us scoring early and then keep trying to push, and then all of a sudden give up like a cheap goal in like the 93rd minute. I just see this whole thing playing out just like that. Yeah, just right, get you all in the feels. I just see it happening. Especially with kind of how the season's been going, with how divided the fans are. We've already given up a lot of points late in matches, very late in matches. So it's kind of seems like the script is written for it. So I'm going to say 1-1, a very late Dortmund equalizer.
Ty, what do you got?
Man, I'll be honest. I mean, I know Parker, I think you said it really well in the fact that, you guys are in a very interesting time for Chelsea supporters in terms of like what the support might be. I'm really interested to hear your reaction and experience when you are there for a European night. But something inside of me just says that, I think that if Chelsea, don't concede an early goal, and they're actually the ones to get the early goal, I could see that burying Dortmund. Reason being is a lot of times when we've scored early in the season, if you look back in this run right now, this 10-match run, there has been 4 or 5 goals across 3 matches, let's say, that have been scored almost 20 seconds after we've scored a goal. So we are very prone to turning right around from our highest moment and absolutely letting teams come back in the door. And it doesn't matter if it's a Bayern or like, let's say a Freiburg is one that we did it to recently, or a Werder Bremen who's fighting relegation in the Bundesliga. We can really kind of give up that pivotal moment to anybody. So I think as much as we're a counterattacking team that will really make you pay if you're not prepared for that counterattack, I think if Chelsea, and they've proven they can before, will get a João Felix or wake a Havertz up and get him open and back there. We have some center backs that are like slow tracking Holstein cattle, and Zula and Hummels that are like at this later stages of their careers. I could see a quick Chelsea counter really doing in Dortmund. So I see a 2-1 to Chelsea forcing that extra time. And I think from there it's anyone's ball game then.
So I think we're all in agreement then it's going to be a close tie. I agree that I think Chelsea's speed on the counter might prove a difference. I think Mihailo Mudryk may score his first goal in the return fixture, but I think it's written in the stars. It's got to be Jude Bellingham late, like Matt said,
or Gio Reyna.
Yeah, either that or Gio Reyna.
Yeah,
Gio scored a couple of late ones.
He has recently. Yeah, he scored I think 2 within the last 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I would say I was very impressed with Mudryk. He's a guy who I paid attention to once he was making noise. Was it Shakhtar he was playing for? I'm really impressed with him. I think like you guys, like winning that signing was massive. And I think he's a guy who could really pan out for you guys, but he's obviously one who, when he shows up, it's really good. And he usually does show up, but when he doesn't, he is taking a position that obviously is going to get, run through if you don't show up. So he's a guy I really have my eye on going forward for Chelsea, because I think he's another live player. He's very exciting.
I'm very excited about him. I know I texted the guys when they announced that that was gonna be the next jersey I was gonna buy. Yeah, dude's gonna be a star. So hopefully he can get off the schneid here at your expense, Ty. All right. Well, last point, just on the fixtures here. I think we can all agree that we don't want Jesus Manzano refereeing the second leg. Same ref from the first one. Holy cow, did he lose control of that match?
Yep, from the first card that was shown, he had no control over that match.
2 quick ones too. It was a bit ridiculous.
10 cards given. Go ahead.
It's so much like volleyball, guys. I mean, anyone who's going to hide behind a card that early is probably going to lose control of it. And I don't think that the scuffle later in the match was because of really bad blood between Dortmund and Chelsea. I mean, this is the first meeting of the clubs. I think it truly is professionals playing at a high level and an official who proved he doesn't have control of a European night. And that period.
He's given out more yellow cards than any other referee in European competition this year. He's averaging 5.75 per match. Gave out 10 in the first fixture. So it's our honorary man of the get the fuck out of here, Jesus Manzano. All right. Well, Ty, I got one more question for you here. At Chelsea, it's been kind of quick draw in terms of, getting players, releasing players, firing coaches, hiring coaches. Never really been a plan until about 6 months ago. Dortmund seems to be a club that has had a plan for a while now, and you're a supporter of that club who builds around youth and seems to have some structure. Is there any advice you can give to us Chelsea fans who are new to that experience?
To be honest, I don't think I do. I just think the one thing that as a supporter that I really attach with and helps kind of help me follow Dortmund and really follow them. And I think that it will add DNA to Chelsea, a club that's been through a lot with the whole, landscape of the world and everything else that has gone on. I think Chelsea got a really unfair shake with the way the media and everything else really handled that, because it's not like the supporters choose who is the owner. And I really think that one thing that could really help that rebuild process is giving you a London boy, a London born, a Chelsea Academy kid that you really kind of like roll out the red carpet for. And because when I think of like a guy like a Marco Reus, for our generation of Dortmund fans, we are going to always be able to associate ourselves with Marco Reus. That's kind of our Dwayne Wade, our LeBron, our Michael Jordan, if you want, for Dortmund. He's a Dortmund boy. He left the one time because he gave him the ultimatum, hey, I am a great talent. I will walk. And he went to Gladbach, and we immediately reeled him back in and said, no. Like, forever you're staying here. Without a guy like that, your team just becomes anybody purchased off the street that's available and willing. And that's a great game to play. But at the end of the day, the people who are filling Stamford Bridge, the people who are wearing and bleeding blue on the streets of London are Chelsea through and through. And they need some boy that they grew up with, sharing beers in the pub with his father or his uncle, watching him on the training pitch on the Thursday nights under the freezing rain when the U18s are home, and it's this little kid in high school. I mean, things like that really inspire a fan base. So when that kid puts in that 88th minute winner against Seville on the road to put you into the knockout round of Champions League, there's something in your DNA and that raises your hair and really strikes it. And that ends up permeating throughout the entire club. Players who are brought in, for us, it's the Jude Bellingham who bought in right away. The fans love it that he tags every photo that he takes in Dortmund at the Westfalenstadion, the original name of Signal Iduna Park. It's guys that come in and buy in like that because of a guy like Marco Reus in the training room. So if they can find a way to have that London boy that they really just like make their own and never let him leave, I think you've got somebody that's kind of like, in an age of mercenaries, you have someone who is a bona fide Chelsea footballer through and through.
I like that. Definitely food for thought for not only us on this pod, but Chelsea fans in general, as Parker said, very divided at the moment. All right. Well, Ty, we definitely appreciate your time and definitely appreciate you coming on. It's always good to chat with you. You can follow Ty on Twitter at the Badger Hopper. Definitely a good source for Dortmund information as well as other life stuff there. But hopefully, depending on the result, we'll see if we're salty or not. Maybe we'll have you on in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, it was good just to shoot the shit with you guys. Obviously, talk football, and I always look forward to seeing a new podcast pop up from you guys. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Pleasure, man.
Hell yeah. Good.
All right. Well, thank you to Ty for coming on to the pod. Again, always a pleasure to chat with him. Boys, let's turn to some more Chelsea things here. 1-0 loss at home. Southampton. Southampton have swept us this year after we put six across them in April of 2022. Things are not great at Chelsea at the moment, and I think this match just kind of summed everything up. But Parker, you said earlier you're the eternal optimist, and let's try to be Parkers on this pod here. Let's talk about some things that made us smile in this match, because everybody needs a little positivity. Parker, what stuck out to you in this match?
It's funny. I was going to start with some negatives, so I'll table those.
Let's tell you what. Let's start with the negatives and let's end on a positive note.
all I was going to say is I texted you boys like, we need a fucking win, and we didn't get one, and it just hurts. Like I do want to be able to express my pain. Like it just hurt. Like the fact that it's against Southampton at home, it's a game that, like any other season, any other scenario, no matter who our manager, no matter what 11, whether we're playing all academy or not, like it just feels like a match we should win, and we didn't. So I won't belabor the point. It just is. It's very frustrating to see us still not be able to pull it together. That said, my biggest positive from the match was Wesley Fofana. Wesley Fofana, I believe he got brought on at halftime. I can't remember exactly. I think it was the 45th. Wes it was a big name signing and then got hurt pretty quickly after. And so I think a lot of Chelsea fans forgot about him because we've signed, I think, 127 players this season so far. So it's hard to keep up with everybody. Wes played well when he first came out, but didn't necessarily wow. He wasn't Thiago Silva. He didn't wow in the same way. And he had a couple of shaky moments. So it left a little bit of just uncertainty in everybody's appetite and palate. And boy, did he come out with a vengeance. It looked like he came out to try to prove something and show Chelsea fans and the staff and everyone like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I can do. And he got to every ball and positioned himself. He was physical. He was active. He was all over the place. I don't think he put a boot wrong the entire second half. And in a second half where we needed to attack, we needed to win possession, we needed good moments and good spells, Wes cleaned a lot of things up, and he prevented a lot of things from happening. He was my shining star. And I know it's hard to deem a shining star in a 1-0 victory against Southampton. I'm not trying to say that he was a 9.9 rated player or whatever. I'm just saying that I'm really happy to see him back. I think he won a lot of people over, including myself. And I think he's going to be part of what we kind of shift into, which I think we go into a back three. I think we need to be able to play a back three with our wing backs. I like that structure a lot. I think it works really well for our players and our personnel. We've got some of the best wing backs on the planet with Reece James and Ben Chills, Cucurella when he's in form. And so players that can like play that wing back position, it's kind of rare. And we have those, and now we've got the center backs to back that structure up and protect the goal. And Wes fits in really, really well with that structure. So I'm excited to see him back. That was my shining star moment.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw out of Wes, and when I saw him come on and when I saw him start playing, and I think the biggest thing for me was being physical. We know that he's quick enough to get back. We know that, but being physical was the biggest question mark I had of him. He came out like prime Rudy in this match. He was taking no shit. He was doing everything that he needed to do, bodying people like his life depended on it. It was so good to see, especially when you're down Thiago Silva, which I think this match only enhances the importance that he has to this club, especially in that defense. But seeing him come out, it was great to see. Obviously he was dealing with that ankle injury for a while, but I love what I saw out of him. And obviously we've got other bright spots, right? Collins, I'm sure that you're gonna touch on this, so I won't take this away from you, but we saw a lot of things from some of our new signings, right? Madueke, Fofana, Mudryk. I think we were all waiting for that combination of Chills and Mudryk to kind of do something. I think we saw a good amount of that. I don't think Mudryk played his best match. It looked like he got caught out of possession quite a few times, but again, it's his second start in the Premier League, something like that. So again, slight learning curve. He'll grow into it. I'm not worried about it. Fofana, Madueke, I thought that they played well. Kova coming back, yes, I'm the biggest proponent of Kova. I like him being out there, but I'm not necessarily sure that we know what the partnership with him and Enzo looks like right now. I think it's a little bit too early to tell. I think they're still trying to figure it out with Kova just coming back from injury and stuff like that. So, that's kind of a big question mark. But I mean, there's not much else. Like, as soon as I saw the free kick that was given up by Dave, before Prowse even took the kick, went to the mini fridge in my garage. I'm like, I know what's going to happen. He's so good at it. And that is the most dangerous position that you could give him. As soon as I knew that they had a free kick, I'm like, well, I know this is going in. I don't care who you are. I don't care Mendy, Bentinelli, Kepa, Neuer, Allison, Ederson. I really don't care who you are. You're not stopping that. The amount of dip that thing had from that short, filthy. There's no way. And he's just that good. He's one of those players where you're surprised if he doesn't score a goal than when he actually makes it. It's one of those weird things. And he's just a very special player when it comes to things like that, especially, those set pieces. But yeah, I mean, there are bright spots in it, but unfortunately, we're not judged on bright spots. We're judged on results. And that's something that's been very hard to come by in the last few months.
Oh, Matt, you almost triggered me with that last statement, because there's some people in this club who think that we're evaluated on bright spots. But my positives, I thought Madueke played fantastic again. Matt, I know in our pre-pod chat you were talking about him tracking back a lot, playing pretty defensively. But I thought when he got the ball deep in our own half, he did a great job of either taking it himself all the way or finding an outlet right away. And you look at the heat maps, and he was our third most forward player through the whole match, out of anybody on the pitch besides João Felix and Datro Fofana. So I think he made an impact there. And the right wing, I feel like right wing was set last year, and then left wing was the issue. And this year I feel like now it's both wings have been the issue. Madueke seems like a solution on that right wing. He has something that no one else in this team does. And it's almost like Operation Restart Pulisic, where it's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to go at you. Like, I know I have the ability to. Let's see what happens. And for a young guy, I like that in him. I like that he's got that fearlessness. Ty was talking about Dortmund having this kind of just, let's just see what happens. Young team. I think Madueke is fantastic as that for us. We don't have that. Outside of that, I thought Enzo was good again. I know that he will always have that crazy price tag associated with him. That, I'm sure goals and assists will never live up to and all that, but he seems to be the maestro, and he has fit in very quickly in this squad, and everything seems to run through him. And so I appreciate that there's that stability in the midfield. And again, that's been a position, just like the wings, that's been in flux this year. You never really know who's going to be there. Now we have a staple, and it's Enzo, and he shows quality. Now it's just a matter of finding his partner, right? But outside of that, my last one, Matt, I know you didn't want to talk about all the new signings because I was going to. So here's my last one. David Datro Fofana. He's young. He's coming from a Scandinavian league on a January transfer. So he wasn't even mid-season when he came over. He was not even in preseason when he came over. He was coming over cold. Now made a couple Premier League appearances as well as a cup appearance. Hasn't scored yet, but I think he's looked very positive for a young guy. He's got a big build, but he's got some speed to him. He's not afraid to take you on. Saw him do kind of that Aiden Hazard dart in between like 3-4 people at one point before being dragged down. I think once he gets into form, once he gets up to match fitness, able to go a whole 90, I think he's going to be maybe not a great striker. He's not going to be a Didier Drogba to make the Ivorian connection there. But I think he'll be a very solid, striker, maybe a Demba Ba kind of figure. I'm very impressed. And maybe that's just comparing him to what we have on the bench with Havertz and Aubameyang, but hope is worth a lot, I would say.
Yeah, so I completely agree. Madueke, he's looking good. Obviously, with an aging Dave being your right back, Reece not available, and some of our big names not available for the match. He did have to track back a lot, which you don't want to see that out of your forward attacking players. But the fact that he is able to do that and he's willing to do that, I think speaks volumes. I do think of him and Fofana kind of in the same regard. They are both still a little bit raw, and they need a little bit of time to develop, I think, a little bit more technical ability when taking some people one-on-one and stuff like that. But they do show a lot of promise, and it's very exciting. My only thing with Enzo is I feel like, at least from what I've seen so far, I feel like he's trying to figure out what his position is, when he needs to go forward, when he needs to go back, because I see him playing kind of like a Jorginho / Conte role, like all together. Sometimes he's going to be that pivot guy. Other times he's going to be up high pressing. And I would like it to be a little bit more solidified, because when he does attack high, it's good to see, but not always the most fruitful as far as like his efforts and things like that. So I think that needs a little bit of, kind of clear cut. What is your role? Like, where do we want you to be? I do like him out of the back. I think he's doing a great job. When he does press, I'm a little bit nervous, only because of kind of like we touched on, we don't know what the best partnership with him is yet, right? We've tried with RLC, is it We haven't seen him necessarily with Conor Gallagher. We haven't seen him with Zakaria. We haven't seen him with Conte when he does come back. Like, there's so many moving pieces to this. We don't know really what his best relationship is yet and where he's going to be best suited. So I'm glad that he's able to do all of those things, but I think it's also very taxing when he's trying to do all those things. I think once we solidify a partnership, which again is going to take time because we have a bunch of different people doing all this stuff, I think once we figure that out, then we'll be in a much better position to assess what Enzo's best spot is and where he's going to be the most productive at.
I'm just going to say if he has a partner, because I think like he can potentially do that role on his own. But yeah, I was gonna say, Matt, I'll say something that I think he'll really enjoy, but I think he is like the true upgrade to Jorginho in almost every facet. He's more physical, he's more commanding, and he plays better forward balls. Like, he is that Jorginho 2.0 to me. He just like does those facets of the game a lot better. So I think he can operate as that pivot by himself and forward the ball better, play better long balls, and be more physical when the defensive side requires it. So I'm excited about Enzo Fernandez and Madueke, to Collins's point earlier. So we all like and enjoy what Ziyech brings to the team, but Ziyech is a bit of a one-trick pony. Everyone can kind of see what his plans are. He goes down the right side. He wants to get it back on his left. He wants to get a cross in or a shot on goal with his left boot. Madueke just brings a bit of difference to it, where he'll go forward, he'll cross the ball in with his right, or he'll cut back, or he'll play a little bit more physical, or he'll play a little bit more straight on. He'll try to do some step overs to try to take people on one-on-one a little bit more often. So I like the change of pace. And as we balance Champions League squads versus non, it's going to be Ziyech is going to play in the Champions League when possible, because Madueke can't, and Noni's going to be able to ball out in the Premier League. So hopefully we keep both competitions live and well. But I like what I see, and I like that there's a difference there. And Collins, your comp to Project Restart Pulisic, where it's just, I'm going to take people on, don't really give a shit. I think we need more of that, and I like that. I miss Pulisic. I miss Pulisic's energy. I know we like a lot of what we see with Mikhail Mudryk, but I really did enjoy what I saw with Pulisic too. So he had a lot of positives too. He should be coming back from injury relatively soon too. So we're gonna have a squad full of players. An embarrassment of riches that we're not necessarily going to know what we're going to do with. I think a lot of them are going to get offloaded, but it'll be interesting to see how the rotation kind of works with that too. So obviously when you sign Mudryk on an 8-year contract, he's going to be your guy for the long term. And I think we build around him. But when you start to look at like the average age of our team, we're a very young team. And I don't think we necessarily treat them like a young team. We treat them like Chelsea, because we're Chelsea. But we don't treat them like a team full of 22, 23-year-olds. It's kind of what they are. And with a team full of 23-year-olds, you get some volatile performances, and you get some results that you don't want. And that is why, Collins, that's why I'm the eternal optimist. We signed a lot of guys on long-term deals. And when those guys are 25, 26, I still really hope that those guys are the right guys that can really take us to, when you look back, you're like, holy shit, we got him on that deal. Oh my God. Like, how did Chelsea steal those guys for that amount of money on those kinds of deals? They're 26. They're in their prime. They're firing. They've been playing together for 4 years. Like, those kinds of storylines in the future, like that's what I'm holding out hope for.
All right. Well, that's enough of being the eternal optimists here. Let's turn to the negatives, because we did lose to a team that's going to be relegated. at home. They have an interim manager after sacking their manager a week prior.
For the second time this year.
Oh yeah, sorry. This is their third manager of the year. It can be on or off the pitch stuff, boys. I know what I have. I'm gonna hold on to mine for a minute here. But Matt, what do you got? What made you a glass half empty kind of guy?
Giving James Ward-Prowse a free kick. Like, he's the most dangerous person in the Premier League, arguably the world, when it comes to a free kick 25-30 yards outside the box. I don't think that there's really much of an argument there. Like, that's what he does. The biggest, I think, kind of kick in the ass that I saw was, and it's something we saw under Tuchel as well. Once we're down, then we really start attacking. And I was extremely disappointed in the first half when, or maybe it was like 20 minutes in, where they showed the possession and Southampton had 67% possession. I'm like, how? Like, how do we not get this ball back and just do what we do, right? It seems like we're a possession-based team. We always have been. We probably always will be. We have the talent to do it. But I keep going back to the same things that we've been looking at for years, despite manager, right? This is regardless of manager. We can't play out of the back when we're under pressure. We've known that for years. We can't break down a team that just parks the bus from minute one. We can't break a team down because everybody is stagnant. The other thing is, like, we are just not able to produce enough offense to make us seem relevant. And I think that's been the case probably for the last year and a half. I would say about a year and a half. Just so many different things that come to mind, and it's the same people for the most part. I don't necessarily think it's the same system. I'm not sure what it is. Let's put it that way. There's just a lot of consistency in what we saw at the end of Tuchel, or the decline of Tuchel, and what we're seeing with Potter as it is right now. Granted, you have new players, you have different people coming back from injuries, all this different stuff. You have a ridiculously large roster and a lot of egos and a lot of bills that have to be paid with a lot of those people. It's a very tough spot to be in. I get that. And we obviously tried offloading a bunch of people. Like, I think we all thought Christian was out the door. Ziyech, obviously we all know the PSG situation. Like, there were a lot of things. Connor was apparently going to Everton, or at least on loan, maybe a full transfer, like things like that. There were a lot of moving pieces to that. And I think once we have this mass exodus of what Chelsea would consider excess resources, I think then we can start to build a team around that. I think we just have too much. Like, we have too much of a good thing, right? Everybody always says you can never have too much of a good thing. Well, we unfortunately do at this point. So it's a lot to balance, and then you incorporate everything else going on. It's a tough spot to be in. I don't envy Graham Potter one bit. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to build at Chelsea with the ownership, with the people that we're bringing in for the front office, sporting directors, technical directors, scouting, recruitment, youth, all that stuff. I like what's happening. But as we've seen, especially in US sports, you have to bust it up to rebuild it. I'm not calling it a full rebuild, but it's going to be a majority rebuild. And I think we have the pieces in place that are going to take over for the individuals that are going to be transferred or dealt elsewhere in the summer. And I think that's going to free up a lot of things going forward, because you have a lot of mouths to feed with a 33-man roster for your Premier League squad. Yes, I know you get more subs, but still, it's a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of egos to feed going into that. And with people coming back, even more so.
Yeah. I understand all the I understand all the, I don't want to call them excuses, because, well, maybe I do want to call them excuses. Big squad, like I understand all that, but that's why you have a manager. My biggest gripe, not only with this match, but with these last 15 games where we've won 2 and scored 6 goals, has been a couple things with the manager. I'm seeing a lack of discipline, and not just fouls, right? The Dortmund game was a weird one. Terrible referee, like I mentioned earlier in the pod. It's the highest carding referee in UEFA. But just sloppiness, general sloppiness from a team that, and there's been some changes to this squad in general, but the backbone of this squad is the squad that won the Champions League 2 years ago, that were champions of the world 2 years ago. And you're just not seeing the same cohesiveness. And just to clarify, when I say spine, I'm talking about the leaders of this group, leaders, quote unquote. I don't think we have any leaders in this group, but Kepa, Reece James, Thiago Silva, Mason Mount. Thiago Silva being the exception, because he's always good. I regret saying at one point that he was about to Tom Brady. But everybody else, like there's just been a weird downturn collectively in focus on the pitch. A lot of weird turnovers, a lot of miscommunications, and then you add on the fouls in terrible spots that we don't normally give up. We seem to be giving up a lot of those over the last 15 games. But I guess what my real problem was the post-match presser. There it is. I feel like with Graham Potter's pressers, they're about as predictable as a Mike Jones song. You're going to get his phone number, and he's going to say who, and then he's going to say Mike Jones. Graham Potter, he's going to say the boys gave it their all every time. And then, he's going to say something of, we're not worried about the results, but we saw a lot of positives today. And so we saw that as usual this week. But then he also throws out there, and this came off as a very manager of Brighton statement and not a manager of Chelsea statement. And it was, well, yeah, but Southampton were like, it's tough to beat a Southampton side when they're well prepared, yada, yada, yada. I'm sorry. We just mentioned that they're on their 3rd manager of the year. They are dead last in the Premier League. They have 21 points, I believe, 6 of which have now come from Chelsea. So 15 points from any other club in the league. And their interim manager just took over 5 days prior. And by you saying that leads me to believe that you are under the impression that your team is not well prepared, was not well prepared for this match. How? I'm not saying that Potter is a bad coach, because I don't know that. I'm not in on his training sessions. I'm not in the locker room, but part of the manager's job is to keep the team prepared, is to keep the team motivated. You know, in addition to creating lineups, tactics, all of that. And I don't think he's doing those two. I think it's almost like he is so, and I would not blame him if this were the case, but he's so used to coaching one game a week at Brighton. They don't play European football. They've got an FA Cup match every once in a while. They got EFL Cup every once in a while, which they usually don't go deep in. But it's almost like he's overwhelmed by the amount that we're playing. And to have a team that is guaranteed to be relegated come in and be more well prepared than you are, I think is an embarrassment. For a club like Chelsea, it's an embarrassment. And he needs to send his assistant to do these post-match pressers because he's terrible at them. And he's embarrassing himself and he's embarrassing the club.
Collins, that's where you and I find common ground, because it hurts me to hear his press conferences after a match, because while I don't agree that he has to be like the fiery manager that yells on the sideline, like people like to show the Tuchel comps where Tuchel's yelling up and down the sideline and screaming at players. Don't think you have to be that to be an effective manager. But when you lose to the 20th place team, you don't tip your cap to them and say, oh, they were better than us. Or he didn't say that exactly, but he basically said, oh, they were well prepared for us. No, the correct answer is they played better than us. We weren't well prepared, or they outplayed us because, we didn't take advantage of X, Y, and Z. Like you give examples of why your team failed, or you give examples of what they did better, or you tell the story of why you should have won. Like as a manager, you have to like own that, and that's on you. If you got something wrong, you own that it was on you. If you think something should have happened, you take that on you. And I think he gives too much credit to the other squad. He gives way too much of a tip of a cap that they did what they should have done. And our side just didn't happen this time. But it's a very common theme of our side continues to not happen this way. And that's where like my annoyance starts to really build up, is like, yeah, you can continue to say that, but like it has to happen at some point, right? Like, and we're all just kind of waiting for it to happen. But this is the game where it shows through. This is the breakthrough time. If you lose to City twice in a row, okay, fine, whatever. If you lose to City back-to-back matches, I get it. As a fan, I can accept that. They're City. But the Southampton match is where you say our team responded well and they kicked the shit out of them. That's the time where you get to say that. And we don't get that press conference. We get they were prepared for us, or they were better prepared for us. And that's where like I roll my eyes and I just say, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm trying to buy in confidence week in, week out with this guy. And it is waning. Yeah. I don't know if I'm Potter out with you, Collins, or not, but it is starting to wane. It's irritating to see that mentality. And while I know I don't know everything, I know what a winner looks like, and it's just it eats at you. So as a fan, you want what's best for the club, and you can take the long term or the short term kind of viewpoint of what's best for the club or not. But yeah, it's just a tough, tricky spot to be in. So yeah, I get why fans are not as loud as they usually are. Like we talked about that earlier in the podcast about how that home fan mentality isn't there right now because the fan base is a little bit divided. I get it, because as a fan, I'm a bit divided myself. I want to cheer for my club. I want my club to win. I want what's best for my club, but I don't necessarily know 100%. I don't have that 100% faith that we have everything in place that we need to. I don't like the blow it up mentality, because I think that that's short term in nature. But yeah, it's tough. I'll smile and say it's tough, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about, because you know I'm divided in how I talk, and it's just a tough situation to be in.
Well, not to speculate, but maybe there could be an emergency pod in the next couple days. It looks like. Again, I'm not putting out any conspiracy theory, but I'm going to present you guys with some information that was interesting from today. Chelsea had a scheduled off day for today that has since been extended into tomorrow, Monday, the day of this pod's release. So I apologize if any information is out of date here. Chelsea went a full 26 hours after the end of the Southampton match before posting anything on social media. Normally they are posting about every 3-4 hours. Mark Cucurella has turned off comments on his Instagram page. Of course, he is the one who came over with Potter from Brighton. And there are rumors of a club statement to be made tomorrow, Monday. So, boys, I don't think it's fair to make any judgments until tomorrow. I just wanted to present all of that information so that it's out there. If you happen to listen to this podcast before anything happens, just know you heard it from the Flag Stays Down first. So,
all right. So hold on. I'm going to go back to what we were talking about. So, so many different things. All right. So I understand what you guys are saying about Potter's press conferences. And Collins, you're going to love this. Parker, you will too. It is the last team in the Premier League. They're fighting for relegation, right? They're fighting to get out of it. You don't think that they're going to come hard at a top 6 team, allegedly a top 6 team in the Premier League, to try and save themselves from relegation? Like you really don't think that's going to happen? That's poor. A lot of these people, you think about it. When you go down, when you get relegated, or when you're in that kind of fight, you're fighting for your livelihood for a lot of these players. Because guess what? You probably are not going to make as much in the Championship as you are in the Premier League, especially with TV deals. Because that all goes back to the club. That also helps pay his players and stuff like that. You really don't think that these players are going to come out and they want to make a statement? And we always talk about, the new manager push, right? Anytime a new manager comes in, you get maybe 2 or 3 good matches, and then it's back to the norm. They have a new manager for this match. You don't think that they want to impress and get their name out there and stuff like that in the event that they are relegated and they get picked up by a Premier League team? That's bad. That's absolutely bad. That is, you can't defend that. I will completely back you guys on that one. I really don't care about pressers, to be completely honest. It's just all for media. Mourinho, he used to light a fire under people's asses or get himself absolutely blown up for shit. I get it, but that's his style. It's not Potter's style. He's a different type of coach than what we're used to having, right? We always have these fiery, energetic, very media attention, kind of attention whore type managers. Potter's not that. The way that you guys are explaining his presser And I said this when we first talked about Tuchel getting sacked, who would be his replacement. Collins, your first pick was Graham Potter. I said I would not mind Graham Potter, although my only fear is that it's not Brighton, it's Chelsea. It might be way above what his actual expectations are. I think we're seeing that out of his pressers. He's still, to your point, he's overwhelmed, and that was my biggest concern. He took Brighton, kind of, I wouldn't call him a nothing club, but a low to mid-table club, and brought him up the ranks. Completely respect that. But this is a whole new environment. And that was the point that I was trying to make months ago when we were talking about this. This is a whole new echelon of managing, coaching, dealing with the press. Expectations are through the roof when you take this position, because that's the standard that's been set, right? This is Chelsea. So just want to throw that out there. I'll get off my soapbox. But I think that there's a lot going on, and the public perception, I don't think reflects the internal, I don't think it reflects what's happening internally. Yes, Potter may not have good pressers. Fine. I go back to the old to an old adage. Just because you can't read the sign that says toilet doesn't mean you don't know how to use it. Who gives a shit if you honestly can't read, can't do whatever, but if you know what's going on, and if you can, do soccer, like if you can manage that, fine. I don't care. I don't care if you're illiterate. If you know what's going on, fine. By all means, I'm all for it. He's made, what was the stat? Collins, I think you and I were talking about it. 73 different changes to the lineup this season, or something ridiculous.
84.
Yeah. And he's had to. He's had big name players go out, like our dependent people, right? Reece James, Conte, Fofana, Kova, endless others, like all go out on injury. And those are key pieces of our team. And it gets emphasized even more when they're not out there, right? Like we saw what happened when Reece wasn't out there. Madueke had to come back and help out Dave. We see what happens when, Thiago Silva isn't in the squad. There's definitely a big shift in defense. We talked about Fofana already, and we saw like what happened when he came on, or when he came back for the first time in God knows how long. We praised RLC for coming back after 2 months, and he played a few really good games. There are just certain pieces that he's trying to manipulate, and especially then you talk about bringing in new signings, trying to get them fit and into the squad that we still don't know what our best 11 looks like. After however many months he's been in charge, dealing with injuries, all the new signings that we've had, who's going where, who do we have to offload, who are we bringing? Like, it's just a lot. And I don't think even all three of us combined could pick a best 11 right now based on what we've seen this season. I really don't think that we can. Because at certain points, it's a crapshoot. Like, it really is. Like, Mason Mount could be fantastic one day, and he could be Southampton Mason Mount the next day, right? We don't know.
But
Kai can come on for
Matt,
30 minutes and be perfect, and then he could be dog shit for 90. Like, it's a really weird balancing act that I think it's going to take time to figure out. And until we have everybody healthy and ready to go, I don't think that we're going to know what that looks like.
So two things, Matt. Number one,
Yes.
with the best 11, I could put together probably 8 out of a best 11 right now, and the other 3 being interchangeable.
But not a best.
But with that being said, he's with this group, watching them play, watching them train 6 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, us as volleyball coaches, previous volleyball coaches, you know that we could put together a starting lineup the day of tryouts. Like, you just know. You maybe there's 1 or 2 players who flop in and out. But after watching these guys play for, I would say, at least a week, you have an idea. You have a base of what that lineup is. And then as as the weeks go on, you're able to add or subtract or whatever to that. He doesn't seem to do that. Thiago Silva is real, and Kepa really are the only ones, and Kai Havertz, I guess,
I would say Reese.
But Reese as of late. Late.
I mean, when he's healthy,
yeah,
he's always going to be number 1.
But outside of those 3, it's like he doesn't know.
I wouldn't even say Kai is I wouldn't even say Kai makes the 11 personally, but that's
I agree that he should.
That's a whole separate thing. But
I'm saying that he's in Potter's guaranteed 11.
Right. And what I'm saying is anybody can have a great week of practice and then shit the bed. Right.
No. So I guess what I'm saying is as an evaluator of talent, doesn't that speak to Potter doing a terrible job?
No, because anybody can have a great week. And so at that point, you don't know who your best 11, like if you have your, I'll go back to this, right? You have your Frank Lampard, Mason Mount, right? Frank is your dad. Like you have something like that. He needed to be out there. And granted, at the time he was our best player. We couldn't leave him off the 11. But let's say you have somebody like Madueke who balls out in practice, or you have Ziyech who is just balling out in practice 1 week and he's in your starting 11, but realistically we think no, it should be Madueke. Then like what really is your best 11? I'm saying he's taking your, and so what you're saying is they're with them week by week for however many hours a day, right? Doing all this stuff. Anybody can show out for a week. Anybody can be a flash in the pan, and then they would start, and then so on and so forth. Anybody could have a really bad week, and even though we think that they should be out there, they're not. So I'm just saying that's how things kind of change, and that's why I think he's still trying to figure everything out. As far as, yes, we have a wealth of talent. We know that. But
he's been with this group outside of the 5 players who are with the squad that we signed in January, Andre Santos being the one exception because he's not with the squad yet, and Slonina. He's been with the squad for half a season.
Some, and also the people that were gone during the World Cup. And
right, but he was the manager before the World Cup.
But he took a lot of the youth players to the World Cup to help them train without a lot of the first team members.
Yeah, and he's not playing them now.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead, Parker.
I was just gonna say, like, if you've got so 2 players that I think are pretty close, form right now today are not close, but are pretty close, is Ben Chills and Cucurella. We've gone back and forth on those guys historically on the spot. Like we have. And ultimately they're relatively close. I don't know if you know exactly which player is going to show out on any given day, any given moment, any given situation. Like gun to your head style. Like I don't know if you know which exactly one is going to be the better option. Like, so to Matt's point, we've got a lot of players, we've got a lot of depth at players where you don't know exactly who is going to be the better option on any given day. Is Kai going to be better than DDF? I don't know. We don't know, and you can't run the exact simulation back where you start Fofana instead of him and you see exactly how that match plays out, right? Like you don't know exactly how it's going to be, but you know what Kai brings, you know what Fofana brings. you weigh those options and you say, which one do I think is going to be better? So when Pulisic is healthy, he's going to challenge Mudryk. Ziyech is challenging Madueke. You've got Enzo, who's our like one fit good midfielder, but you've got Kovacic, you've got RLC, you've got Conte, and I'm missing somebody. Zakaria and Conor Gallagher.
Yeah.
Like you've got a wealth of midfielders that you could pair him with. And then you've got Reece James, who's obviously better than Dave today, but then you've got your guy that you're right back from Lille. I don't remember his name, but
Malo Gusto,
who's coming back, who's injured right now and potentially could be coming back. So you've got a lot of guys, you've got a lot of talent, and I think Matt, your point is like you don't necessarily know what your best 11 is. You've got a lot of guys who play well in different situations. Collins, your point earlier today was Kalidou Koulibaly, who has historically not been the best Premier League defender, has shown a lot of weaknesses, but pretty much balled out midweek in the Borussia Dortmund match. He played well. He stepped up to the challenge. He did what he needed to do. And like knowing that he was the right man for that job, obviously it's a little bit hindered by the fact that Benoit Badiashile couldn't play in that match, but like factoring him into what matches he works well in versus what matches Badiashile might work well in, it's going to take a lot of time to figure out all of those nuances. You've got like different types of skill players and different types of roles. And it's a much more difficult puzzle than I think any one of us really understands. We've never had, we've all been like playing a six piece puzzle with 8 pieces, and he's playing a 11 piece puzzle with 32 pieces, and it's a lot more tough than we give it credit for.
And that's a fair point, and I understand that. I guess to kind of summarize where I'm getting at here, because I think I did a poor job explaining, is that you should have a basis of what your starting 11 is going to be. 6 or 7 guys who consistently, not every single match all season, but consistently are in your starting 11. Maybe left back is a place where you see a lot of changes. Enzo's partner, striker doesn't seem to be one, but it should be one. And then maybe the other center back. So like that's where I would expect to see the changes, not to have 6 to 7 changes every single match, like from match to match. That's where you start running into these issues of, well, I don't know where this guy's playing. Like, I don't know where to play the ball because normally it's this guy I'm playing with. That's where you run into those issues. You look at the teams that look fine-tuned. They're the teams that have a fairly solidified starting 11. Guys who play with each other week in and week out. When you start messing with that, when you start leading the league in changes to your starting 11, that's when you struggle. I mean, historically, you look at what year was that? I can't remember, but Manchester United finished like 5th or 6th, got knocked out of the Europa League in the group stages. They made like 130 changes that year. So it's some crazy number. But that's it's adding variables, right? And that's what I think he should be trying to get away from.
Right. And I think he's adding variables because, again, like you have so many people coming back from injuries, and we've talked about, like, a good example would be Kukurea and Mudryk, right? We've talked about that. I wouldn't even call it a partnership. We've talked about kind of that debacle of those two together, right? Kukurea and Mudryk together, like Mudryk would hardly ever touch the ball. And we've talked about the Reece James dependency. Anytime he's on the pitch, he's going to bomb down the right, and that's where most of our attack is going to come from. When you throw in Enzo, obviously he's new. He's getting into figuring out, okay, who's my left back? Is it Chills or Cucurella? Is it Reese or Dave? Thiago Silva, we know, is pretty much a staple. Is it Koulibaly? Is it Badiashile? Like, there are so many moving parts to that, and trying to figure that out. And I'm just talking about at least that back five, if we want to call it. Back five, back six, whatever. Trying to figure that whole thing out is enough of a problem. Then we talk about the attack when we're moving stuff all over the place. You have Kai up top for whatever reason. Mount still makes the 11 usually somehow. And just, it's like they want to be free flowing, but they don't. And, you know, you're still trying to figure that out. And if Enzo is going to be your point person, again, if he's going to be the linchpin, he just signed in January. He's got to figure out all these different players, how they operate. Then you throw in Fofana, you throw in Madueke, you throw in Ziyech. Pulisic is coming back. Then you look at the midfield. You have Conor Gallagher. You have RLC. You have Conte. You have so many different moving pieces that I think you cannot accurately identify who your starting 11 would be. And honestly, we know that a flat out 11 is kind of off the table at this point. So Collins, to your point, a starting 6, like a core, I think that we would agree that it's probably, I would say, 5 people at this point. I can think of 5 just off the base that I would be like, yes, they are absolutely starting. Other than that, that's less than half of your starting 11. So how do you manage that when you're trying to find all these different moving pieces and figure out what partnerships work, which ones don't, with the new influx of talent that you have coming in, people coming back from injuries, and trying to balance that whole thing?
Well, if we're using data and analytics and all this stuff that Boley wants to use, right, in creating this squad, then I could put together probably 7 that need to consistently start week in and week out. And you got Kepa in goal, Reece James, Thiago Silva. So then your left back is going to be the up and down Parker, as you mentioned earlier. Maybe Thiago's partner, although Badiashile, I think, has more or less solidified that for the rest of the year. So
I would say it depends on the game.
3.5.
3.
Enzo in the mid. Mudryk on the left. Havertz up front. It's fine if you guys want to shake your head, but I'll make you a bet. I will bet a bottle of whiskey that Kai Havertz starts as striker in the next match.
Okay, that is a bet I'm not willing to take.
Exactly, because he is in.
He will, even though he
is in that starting 11.
He
should or would be isn't the right.
Yeah,
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about staples that should start.
No, I'm telling you what Graham Potter's starting 11 is.
No, what is your should? Who should? It is our decision, not Graham Potter's. Who are the people that should start, that you would say?
Well, that's the thing. It's not my decision. It's the shitty manager's decision.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
No, I'm asking you, Collins, what your should decision is, because that's what
I forfeit the rest of the season. That's what I do. I'm so done. I'm so fucking done with this year. I'm ready to quit the pod. I'm leaving right now. Fuck you guys.
No, so
you can follow us at Flag Down Pod.
So who would your should be, like, day in, day out, right? And Parks, you were counting, so you had 5.
Yep.
Who would your?
I didn't finish though.
You lost us at Kai.
Well, I still stick with Kai because he's better than Aubameyang. So 6.
Okay. Yep.
My heart tells me Madueke, but Raheem Sterling costs more. So Sterling on the right. And that's 7.
And see, like, that spot's up for grabs for me. So, like, that's not a should So like the right wing isn't. I think you have to play João Felix.
Okay, but so my point is consistency. This team needs consistency. I really don't give a fuck who is in Graham Potter's starting 11, but he needs to pick a starting 11. 84 changes is ridiculous and unacceptable. He's been in the job long enough that he should have a feel for who his starters are. And the fact that he does not only instills insecurity in the rest of the squad, as does his press conferences. Matt, I wanted to get to this point too, but we went off on a tangent. These players don't live in a fucking vacuum. They have agents who relay all this information to them. They're on social media all the time. Mason Mount just went on like 100,000 person blocking spree on Twitter. They listen. They know exactly what Potter says in his pressers. And as former collegiate athletes, if our coach, if for some reason was, we were being covered by ESPN or something, we just lost a game to,
I'll say it.
I don't know, Platteville.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I was thinking Lakeland, but go ahead.
Shout out. No, I was thinking somebody shitty. Shout out to the UW Platteville Pioneers. If we just lost to Platteville and Lumpy comes out and goes, that stuff happens. I mean, we showed our best, but the team really didn't show their best. The team was terrible that day. You don't think that over the course of that happening week after week after week for 5 months, the team is not going to trust, is going to lose a little bit of trust in you? Again, these players don't live in a vacuum. And all he's doing is creating insecurity in this squad, which is already probably insecure due to the size of the squad. He's not managing.
So real quick, and I know the analogy that you're getting at, so I don't want to take anything away from that. I completely understand what you're saying.
This can be a 3-hour pod.
Our asses would have been chewed out in the locker room. Doesn't care what he said to the media or the public. He would have chewed our asses out in the locker room after the fact.
Okay, let's say Graham Potter was our.
But I'm saying we don't know what's happening.
We don't know.
You're right. We don't. But based on what I have seen, I can assume that he does not.
Right. We assume that, but it's very possible that you put on a brave face for the media and you just kind of, I wouldn't say protect the players, but you try and just throw some sort of comfort out there. But in the locker room, you can give them absolute hell. I mean, Collins, how many times have we done that when we were coaching? Like, how many times did we have to take a knee in the huddle and just lay into everybody? It happened more times than not. But I'm just saying, we would go over, talk to the media, aka the parents, and just say, yeah, we're doing some stuff, we're working on some things, and we're trying to do this and this, but they knew that they got their asses chewed out in the huddle. They knew they got their asses chewed out after the match, everything like that, but we wouldn't tell everybody what actually was said.
Because the parents could see that we were doing it. We have no evidence that Potter's doing this. The way Potter comes off is that he's giving out orange slices and apple juices at halftime.
Right. That's the perception. But again, we don't know. And honestly, all we have to go on is perception. So I completely understand your stance on that. That's all we have to go on. We're not, a fly on the wall in that locker room after a match like that or anything like that. We don't know what's being said, but we have to take the perception essentially at its word.
I didn't want the pod to get to this, and I apologize.
No, it's okay. I think this is isn't all right debate.
It's a therapy session.
Well, we'll discuss it all again tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'll wake up and I'll wake up from my notification from goal.com.
I've got
Yeah,
I've got 12 hours round trip to and from St. Louis tomorrow, so I've got plenty of time to talk, boys.
Oh, wonderful.
are you driving?
Yeah.
I'm off tomorrow, so
Parker's going to be on the Twitterverse. So will Collins, and
I hate Twitter. I fucking
I'll be
hate Twitter.
at work.
I don't like Twitter at all. Don't want to be on
I
it.
never go on it. The only time I ever went on it was to ensure that Ricketts didn't buy Chelsea. It was the only time I was ever really on it consistently.
All right, boys. Well, that pushes us well past the hour mark. Any closing thoughts?
Hope for better days. Lots of potential.
I'll just say I'm excited to take my pilgrimage over to Stamford Bridge, where I'm going to see 2 matches. I secured tickets to both Leeds and Dortmund, so I'm excited to go back Stamford Bridge, 2 matches, and I'm going with my wife. So it's Carolyn's first trip to Stamford Bridge. I get to take her, and I've got two sets of tickets next to her. So it'll be really fun, boys. It'll be a good time.
All right, perfect. Well, before we cheers to that, let me pay some bills here. First of all, want to give a big shout out to Ty Frings at the Badger Hopper for coming on the pod tonight, talk a little Dortmund with us. You can always get our pod anywhere you get your podcasts. But if you are on Spotify or Apple, we just ask that you subscribe, rate, and review. Give us 5 stars and chime in if you want Potter in or Potter out. Or you can follow us on social media. The pod itself is at Flag Down Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow me, Andy. I'm on Twitter at Comiskey North. Parker is at DJ Parkour, and Matt is still suspended. If you have any questions or comments you want us to address on air, we're always happy to read what you got. So come join us when we're live on Twitch, or shoot us a DM or leave us a comment on any social media. So, boys, that's all I've got. Let's toast to, I don't know, hope or potential, and safe travels to Parker.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm all potted out.